Hi, it's Andy again, and this is going to be the first part of speeding up your Android emulator in Windows. Excuse me. So, unfortunately, I can't do a screen grab of this because this is actually my BIOS, and this step is going to be different on every single computer. But there's just one thing you really need to make sure that your computer supports first. So this is the instruction specifically for my 6-year-old Gateway computer, but the kind of what you need to find in your BIOS or UEFI settings is going to be very similar. So on mine, if I go to Advanced Chipset Features, I'll find this Intel VT, and you want to make sure that this is enabled, or else the Intel HAXM program will not function. It won't even install. So you want to make sure you try to find something in your setting, in your UEFI or BIOS settings that says something about Intel VT if you're using an Intel processor. I don't think any of this is going to work with an AMD processor. I don't have one to even test out or see if there's any kind of similar item in the BIOS. I've been using this computer for 6 years, so I haven't really bought anything Windows based since then. But this is going to be step one. You want to make sure you have this enabled before you even install Intel HAXM. So the next part of the video is actually going to be screen recorded with how to install Intel HAXM so that you can have a nice speedy Android emulator. Alright, thank you. Okay, and it's Andy again, and this is going to be part 2 of installing Intel's HAXM software to make sure that your emulator is actually running as fast as it can be. Like I said before, this is a 6-year-old computer with the first generation Intel Core processors. So your instructions for setting up your BIOS UEFI are going to be different on your computer, as those are very computer specific. But once you have that enabled, then you can actually go on to the second step. Now, when you install Android Studio for the first time, I believe now from like 2.0 on, it should try to install Intel HAXM for you. And if you get an error before you in that installation of Intel HAXM, go back, check your BIOS or UEFI settings first and see if you don't have that Intel VT or VTX enabled first, and then go back into Android Studio and follow these steps from now on. Okay, so this is actually going to be the 2.2 beta, so the icons on the top here are different from the 2.1 stable. The icon for the SDK manager is like a little box with the Android head on top of it, and it's changed in 2.2. So these icons may be different, but their general location is about the same. So if you have a project open like this one, they'll be somewhere up here in this range. This is your AVD manager. We're going to open that up later, and the first thing you're going to need to do is open up your SDK manager. Okay, so here's the SDK manager. You have two ways to actually go about doing this. You can actually just do it through this nice GUI based that's built into Android Studio. Otherwise, there's a standalone SDK manager that gives you a little bit more options of picking and choosing certain packages. But I think you can actually do that. Yeah, okay. So you can actually do the same thing by clicking this icon here in the bottom right corner. Doesn't really matter which one you do. Here's what the standalone looks like. It's older, it's a little bit uglier, but they both get the job done. And as of right now, it doesn't really matter which one you decide to do. So we're going to close this off for now. What you need to look for is actually in the second tab, SDK Tools. And we're going to scroll down to Intel x86 Emulator Accelerator. If you do not have this checked, check it, hit
apply and OK, and it's going to install it. Like if I, all right, so apply that, and it's going to, okay, so this is actually the setup for Intel HAXM. I actually didn't know it had that. So that's the UI that you're going to get when you first install Intel HAXM or Android Studio for the first time. And if you get an error in that installation, don't worry, you can get it back from clicking here, clicking apply, and it's going to re-download the software for you. And it's going to actually attempt to install it. But let's say that you get an error and you want to do the installer yourself. The next thing you need to do is actually locate your SDK right here. And we're going to go into the file manager, go into so C, users, me, and then app data is actually a hidden file. So you might need to show hidden files for this to go on if your SDK is in a similar location as mine. Then go into Android, SDK. Now from here, this is considered an extra. So you're going to go into your extra packages, and then the manufacturer is Intel. And then here's your HAXM Hardware Accelerated Execution Manager. And then click on here, and that's going to launch the installer. So this is going to be, we'll just click change. And here, if you wanted to change your RAM usage for the emulator, now this is a cumulative RAM, so if you have like 2 devices with that are going to utilize 1 gig of RAM, you're fine. But if you want to run like a third device at the same time, you're going to want to increase this. Now I have 8 gigs of RAM installed here, so I'm not going to exceed that amount anyway because the maximum is 6 gigs. So we're just going to keep it as the default of 2 gigs of RAM right now anyway. Alright, then you go and change it. Okay, then you're done. Now let's test to see how this all worked out. So like I said, we're going to go into our AVD manager right here. And I've created one specifically for this test. We're going to use a Nexus 5 with an API of 21, and I've labeled it HAXM test so that we know we're going to use it. And this is going to be running Android 5.0 with the Google APIs. And since I have a 64-bit processor, I'm going to use the x86_64. This is going to take up 1 gig of space. It's already done. So now we're going to run it. But if I run it through Android Studio here, we can get a little pop-up, and we can see to kind of test to see if Intel, the HAXM is working. I don't know why this is trying to get the run. Oh, I probably have to run it this way. Sorry, I'm getting used to the beta. I think I downloaded it yesterday or today, so these icons are also a little different for me. Alright, so it's going to build our project, and then it's going to pull up to find out which device we want to use. Right? Or not. There's no devices. Alright, let's click run. Okay, here we go. So we're going to do this HAXM test. So we're going to select OK. And down here, we're going to get this thing. So this is our emulator that we've selected. Next, we're going to see if HAXM is working. Okay. Okay, HAX is enabled. That's HAXM, same thing. HAX is working, and emulator runs in fast virtualization mode. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. So now here's our emulator that's popped up. and we're going to wait for it to boot. And if you've just created your virtual device, the first boot may take a while, but subsequent boots will be a lot quicker. So just kind of like setting up a real device, that's going to be a kind of similar experience. Okay. So our app has compiled, and it's just waiting for the device to boot, and then once that boots, it'll send it to the device. And you can see the boot animation is going. It's just going pretty slow at first. Okay, so our device is booted up. Let's wait for it to actually push and launch this app. Should be pretty quick, actually. Okay. Okay, so here's our app. Everything should run. It's been running kind of slow on this computer. Like I said, it's 6 years old. I personally think that it without this runs a lot better on Linux for the same machine, which is what you see me do all my videos with. It's the same computer, but since I don't boot into Windows very often, I think it's just constantly doing updates in the background. Also, I don't know how taxing Camtasia is because I've never used it before. But I don't think I'll be doing very many tutorials in Windows just because it's not as fast as I kind of would hope it would be. But it's not bad. It's definitely tolerable. And this device is it's better than using the ARM images by a lot. And if you use the Intel HAXM versus just the Intel images alone, you'll see another benefit there as well. Now on the Mac, which I have a Mac that's quite a bit newer, but it's still it's like 3 years newer, so it's about 3 years old now. That one actually runs with Intel HAXM fantastically. Like you really can't. You'll notice a difference in performance between this one, which has its own dedicated GPU, versus the Intel third generation processor, and it's using the integrated graphics, and it's actually faster than this. Now, I think a lot of this all has to do with the operating system, but this is definitely going to be more usable on Windows than just using an ARM image. So those are my little 2 thoughts, and I hope this helps you get started. So have a good day. Bye.